Joining me now is Chad.
Good day.
And Marita. Oh, there we go.
Had to stretch.
And I'm driving you guys to the airport. And Terminal 1?
Terminal 1.
Terminal 1. So we're going to talk today about the Karbon-X project. How did you get involved in it? How did you start it? And why did you start it?
So the biggest thing about Karbon-X is how we started it was kind of funny. We had an oilfield trucking company. I was an oilfield transportation guy. Very good with transportation, very well versed, and I tried to do the next best thing. So let's look at reducing our footprint. If you reduce your footprint, might get a leg up on the competition, get a bit more work, and I couldn't do it. I went to go reduce my footprint, and it was too cumbersome. It was too expensive. They wanted to do a big carbon study on us and then figure out everything right down to the bare nickel, and we just couldn't afford it. So I said, there's got to be a better way, and there wasn't.
And this was in Alberta, right?
Yeah, in Alberta. So we couldn't figure out a better way, so we started researching, carbon offsets, what they are, how they work, the mechanism of change versus the mechanism of finance, how you generate them.
And how long ago was that?
So I started that about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
So into when the pandemic started.
Right at the pandemic, literally. I think it was January 2020 I started really getting serious into investigating. And what I found was that there are ways to make change and there are ways to generate carbon offsets, but it's very cumbersome and very hard to do. So we kind of set out to make it a bit easier. Mm-hmm. We set out to make it approachable for everybody, approachable for business, tied a bunch of marketing towards it for press releases and public relations, and then found out that you can actually generate a lot of carbon offsets by doing good things, planting trees, sustainable forms of charcoal, sequestering CO2 in the ocean, things like this. And so we started getting involved in that. And industrial offsetting was the biggest push. Everybody wanted to do industrial offsetting, offset big companies. But we felt that if you could get people involved, the everyday person, if you could give them a voice, we could probably make more change. So that's where the Karbon-X project kind of morphed from being an industrial company into an everybody company. So we developed an idea to build an app, wrote a bunch of kind of notes on a napkin, truthfully.
Yeah.
Sent it to an app developer, and he said, I think you're crazy. And then we met with him, laid it all out really well, and yeah, we started building an app. So it worked out really well. We've got a couple different retail sales lines. We're involved in 3 different carbon sequestration businesses, planting trees in Bolivia, the sustainable charcoal piece, offsetting oil and gas, flare gas. We take the flare gas, generate power, keep it from being a complete 100% waste and turn it into a energy source as well as a methane reduction source. And then we do ocean CO2 sequestration with Heimdall. Heimdall does all the work. We just help provide them with a platform.
So how do you monetize this app?
So the app is a subscription-based app. Everyday people can get on the app, download it. On March 18th, it goes live. They can download the app on Google Play or Apple, bring it onto their phone, and they pick a level of subscription they're comfortable with, single, partner, families. When they pick the subscription, they get to have so many carbon offsets attached to the app. So they get to offset 9, 12, or 15 tons of CO2, depending who they are and what subscription they pick. But the biggest part about it is they get to pick a project they want to support. So if you're passionate about planting trees or you want cleaner air, cleaner ocean, you can pick a project that kind of correlates to that. You get social media shareable badges and information and updates from the projects, and you kind of get to be vested in what we're doing. So you get carbon offsets, you get to feel vested and do some social media sharing.
How do they benefit from carbon offsets at this point? I'm
Yeah.
just asking, some of my questions might be kind of silly, but I'm learning about this space. So if I'm being silly or I don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. Just, maybe explain it to me.
Yeah, so it's basically you can feel good about offsetting your footprint, especially in North America. We have to drive a lot. We don't really have a choice. In a lot of the places we live, our country's so vast, and between the US and Canada, you have to drive. So you can drive, you can fly. Everyone's going to have to do it anyways, but if you subscribe to our app, you offset a bit of your lifestyle. So you offset some of the CO2 you're creating from your lifestyle.
Right.
It's just the right thing to do. It makes you feel good. It is a registered global reduction. All of our carbon offsets are verified and certified with global registries. So it's the right thing to do. It makes you feel good. You can show you're making a difference and you're making a step forward. And then also the projects, a lot of them that we work with, the ones in tree planting, we've got Indigenous workers, 15 local Indigenous guys all working for us, having a great time. We treat them really well. And if you support them, we get to plant more trees, hire more people. So it's kind of not just a carbon offset side, but it's more of like a social community of change.
Yeah. Okay. And because the app is a subscription model, what fee structure do you have sort of penciled in now?
Yeah, so for a single person to come on and offset their lifestyle, it's $17.49 a month or $174 a year. They can pay monthly or yearly. With that, like I said, you get 9 carbon offsets, which you can share. They're verified, and you'll have a certificate with them. And then you also get the either trees you're planting, cleaning the air, social media, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
$17.49 for a single, $22.49 for a partner, and then if you have a family, it's $27.49 a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any governments? Have you had any meetings with government officials, corporations? Like, kind of give me the inner workings of the business at this point.
Yeah, so some of the best government meetings we've had have been in Europe. Government of Denmark, we just spent some time with the last few days at PDAC. They were great. They're looking for a way to decarbonize shipping because they have to ship everything from Denmark to Greenland. So they go Denmark, Iceland, Greenland. Greenland needs about 95% of the goods brought in by ship. It's very carbon intensive. They burn a very low or high sulfur diesel in all their ships, so they want to be able to decarbonize that. Carbon offsets with a tree asset is something that they really like. So they like assets from offsets from a real asset. So they like if you plant trees, generate carbon offsets. They like that because there's a physical change. So we've been talking to the government of Denmark quite extensively. We go see them in April. And then one of the bigger companies that we've been doing some work with was Power Nickel, Terry Lynch. They offset all their explorational drilling through us for this next year through our Drill Green program. So they told us they're going to drill 40,000 meters, and we built a methodology that allows us to take how many meters we're going to drill. So Terry was able to reduce with us. We did a PR system with him and a news release. He got a stock increase. And he also got some very good PR on his ESG side for Switzerland and Germany with his raise he's heading out for in the 21st of March.
Okay, so I can see how that can be beneficial for publicly traded companies at this point. What happens when a company like BlackRock says we're not going to finance you unless you have a carbon offset program?
That's exactly it. Like, we can be a major part of the ESG between carbon offsetting, physical assets for business, and then our marketing campaigns. The physical assets are the big ones. So we were speaking to some guys yesterday who have a little bit of a PR image. They're in the coal mining industry.
It's a tough one.
Tough one.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we can help. So we have a business solution on our app. On the business solution, they can download it, offset their employees through us. They get 9 carbon offsets for every employee. They also get to plant 9 trees.
Right.
So if you had 1,000 employees, you get 9,000 tons of CO2 reduction. That's verified and provable reduction. But then you're also going to plant 9,000 trees. So if you plant 9,000 physical assets that will grow and move forward with that, it's a physical asset that is going to generate carbon reduction for years to come. So you're kind of doing a double reduction. You're getting a little bit extra marketing. And it just changes the optics of it from being just like people say, a piece of paper trading to an actual physical asset. And it seems to be catching really well. People like it.
So Chad, when it comes to the haters, they might not understand the economics behind it, but what about the science?
Yeah, so that's the mechanism of change portion of it. So a carbon offset basically works for a ton of CO2 reduced from the atmosphere. So if we plant 31 trees in Bolivia, barrow nut trees, for every 31 trees we plant, we reduce a ton of CO2 offset for the years forward. It's a global registered system that we use, global recognized methodologies. We verify all of our carbon offsets through Biocarbon, Verra, or Pure Sky, the 3 main that we use. And the way we do them is every carbon offset has a serial number that is globally recognized and only used one time. Those serial numbers are retired once you've sold and you've reduced the offset, and they can never be reused again.
Is it using blockchain,
Yeah, actually Pure Sky is using blockchain. Verra and Biocarbon are not yet. Biocarbon is working on a blockchain system. They're just not there yet. They're actually doing some testing in the next month, and we're going to be doing some of the transformational testing. So we're going to do transactions with them to make sure that they're getting the right click on it. Yeah.
Okay. How do you pick the projects to work with? Because I understand the app, but then you have to have projects that you can have on the app that people say, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. How do you go? What's that process like?
Yeah, it's a internal conversation between Marita, Jen, and I. We always talk about the projects. We get a lot of projects coming in, like a lot. But we like to vet the projects that make sense. So there's been a lot of problems with land preservation projects lately, a lot of poor news and poor measurement. So we about a year ago we decided we weren't doing land preservation projects just because of the measurement side of it. And there were a lot of bad press, a lot of issues with it. So we do reforestation, because if you plant a tree and you do your attainment study and 90% of your trees live, then you know that you have that.
Right.
It's a measurement, it's quantifiable.
Do you only deal with projects that are licensed, or do you deal with projects that are in the licensing phase?
We'll do both. So we'll actually come in and provide carbon streaming, carbon finance to help a project get off the ground if it's the right project. Plexus, they had an idea they could create methane reduction credits, didn't know how to do it. We went into them with a joint venture, 50-50 cost share, and we're developing the whole project with them. We hired our science partner, Alapirinol, to do the feasibilities. He does the feasibility study, enacts the action plan, and then we take it to the verifiers from there.
How long does a feasibility study take?
Usually about 6 to 8 weeks.
That's not that long.
No, it's not too bad. So Alapirinol does a lot of their measurement through satellite. So instead of putting boots on the ground, they will do satellite reconnaissance, double check everything on all your points, and then they will take basically footage with satellite, footage with sonar, and footage with kind of a 3D mapping technology, and they'll map out the land, and they can see where we planted the trees, the boundaries of the trees. They can also actually tell which ones have lived or which ones have died to prove our retention studies. And then the people on the ground that work for us, they collect retention studies. Alapirinol they compare it to what we've supplied and what they've collected, just to make sure it's completely verified.
What red flags pop up when you're vetting a project?
Oh, okay. Yeah, red flags for us are someone coming in asking for tons of money with no defined project. Someone will come to you and say, I want, $500,000 to do my project. I need it. It's going to make, $50 million a year. And it's only going to cost us $500,000 for 10 years. There's unattainable stuff that people will say. Some of the other stuff is we have to be very careful with emission reduction projects, because there's certain ones that just don't make sense. Such as like with our flaring project that we have, the gas is getting flared and burnt to atmosphere. So instead of that, we take the flare gas, we put it through nat gas generators, we collect the exhaust, run it through an EGR system, and then we reburn it all to make it as efficient as possible.
That I really like that.
Yeah. We've had a company come to us and say, hey, we see you're doing this with this other company, we'd like to do it as well. We look at their system, and they're just taking the gas, they're running it through a non-catalytic converter, no EGR, direct vent nat gas system, and they're not collecting exhaust, so just don't do it.
There's no tax credit for that?
No.
Because, if you do actually, I don't think there's a tax credit for geothermal here in Ontario anymore.
No.
There was. Now it is what it is, but that's interesting. It does seem like that will come.
Yeah, there will be a tax credit coming for sure for people that clean their act up, and the biggest one is the opportunities for investors. If you can drop your ESG score down and get a better rating on your insurance or your interest on your loans coming out of Europe or New York, the different places, that's massive. So I had basically a presentation in Geneva, and we got asked, what do you ever think carbon offsetting will be mandated by government to their every regular everyday person? And I honestly said I don't know, but if it did, the question I asked is, how would government be able to manage it effectively and manage it to where the costs wouldn't get so out of control like everything else? And that's the part that scares me. Offsetting it's a good thing. It's a great mechanism of finance. We can do a lot of green energy transition, green energy planet projects.
Which is where we're headed. Nobody can deny that that's where we're headed.
And we could do it without taxation increase.
Right.
So our app, 30% of every dollar we increase with our app goes straight into project development. So some of them are our projects, some of them are partner projects, some of them are future projects, but allows us to keep developing. And we're using people as our mechanism of finance, and feeling and doing the right thing as a mechanism of finance instead of taxation,
Right.
or going to get government loans. If it ever did come to where it was mandated, the biggest fear I would have of it is, how does the government manage it?
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to go a little bit more, or a lot more China.
Yeah, and it
right?
could happen.
Which, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
there's always pros and cons, right?
Yeah. The biggest thing I think will happen is they will mandate, I believe they're going to mandate air travel to where airplanes are forced to offset what they're emitting.
Right.
I think that will happen, and I think it will be probably a Europe first, North America third, probably. I could see it going Australia before us.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
That makes
so
sense.
I think Europe and then through there. And
That's just based on political stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
I think that would get mandated for sure. I believe air travel will get mandated, and it'll just be on your ticket like a fee. And I believe that.
Sure. I mean, look at
Yeah.
what, I don't know, maybe it's a stupid thing to say, but look at our carbon tax,
Yep.
right? I mean, you pay gas, you pay more. So that's where the whole taxation thing comes in,
Yeah.
right? It's like, okay, well, what's it going to cost the average person to do this?
Yeah.
And is it inflationary?
Yeah. See, the way we've got our business set up is we don't have to inflate our pricing at all for quite a few years, because we own some of the projects. We're generating carbon offsets that we sell to the people through our subscribers.
Right.
So with us generating our own carbon offsets, it keeps our costs down, and it allows us to expand rapidly. So the way I look at it is, we're shooting for 100,000 people this year to subscribe to the platform. I use million people as our target goal for the end. Hopefully we can get 1 million people on. With 1 million people, we're offsetting 9 million tons of carbon. But the big thing is, we'd be investing $40 million of non-taxable money direct into projects outside of corporations to businesses that make change, like real change. It's not a paper shuffle. It's not an ESG shuffle number.
Yeah.
It's all done for the right projects and the right CO2 release.
Okay, so Chad, what's the lifespan of a carbon credit?
Our carbon credits actually never expire because of how they're methodologized. Our methods are very sound, they're very clean, and they're globally recognized. But the way the carbon industry works is, it's a mechanism of change to be eliminated. We're hoping that within 20 to 30 years, carbon offsets can be gone, because our carbon levels are low enough that we don't need to have carbon offsetting, we don't need to have carbon financing.
Let's talk a little bit about the team that's making this all happen, Chad.
So main part of the team, I was a founder CEO. I came up with the idea and pitched the idea to Marita. Marita Dautel is our VP, been with us since the start. Helped us do everything that we can't do, that I don't know how to do. We're really good at executing and operating. Marita's extremely good at the fun stuff of finance and the more finer details of the company than I, when it comes to that. So there's Jen as well. She's our creative director, helping look after building out the app and a lot of the process. VOG app developers, Vince, Zarko, Elias, Tim, Sarah, they're phenomenal. Without VOG, I don't think we could have got where we got. We started building the app April 1st last year. So in under 1 year, using our MVP and napkin notes, we literally built a complete working model app that's in testing right now with a web app out just to collect data. It launches March 18th to everybody. Without VOG, we couldn't have got it done. They're phenomenal. We've got a brand new CFO starting, Alex Henderson, very intelligent, very good man, going to help round us out. And then we've got a few project guys down in Bolivia with SCS. SCS is a tree planting company in Bolivia we helped finance and fund. Jeff Zielinski and Chris Curlow, they're down there doing their thing. And the guys at Heimdall are amazing as well. Eric Miller's a very intelligent man.
Okay, so now we're going to speak with Marita for a bit. Marita, do you want to kind of give us a breakdown of how PDAC was for you? And even just going to conferences in the last month or two?
Yeah, for sure. We had a lot of fun at PDAC. It was interesting. It was really informative. I've never been to PDAC before, so it was interesting to meet a bunch of junior mining companies and kind of see the direction things are going. And I was pleasantly surprised that it seems as though a lot of companies are taking ESG seriously. So that was great. And then Chad, the CEO, he had a bunch of meetings with investors. So he spent more time in meetings and I spent more time on the floor. So it gave me opportunity to chat with a bunch of different companies and kind of get their take on how what their thoughts of ESG is, and when they have it on their poster saying that they find ESG is important to them, actually talking to them and asking them, what exactly are you doing? And then it was interesting to hear some companies are doing amazing things. Other companies are obviously looking at ESG and realizing it's important that they have a program, but then haven't really rounded that out all that much yet.
They're kind of like, no, they're not there yet.
Yeah, not quite there yet, but I mean, you can see the writing on the wall that they're interested in it, and that they do see value in it. So that was really good. But then it was also kind of interesting to talk to different companies. And when you bring up carbon offsets, I mean, some people immediately go to like, oh, okay, well, it's just something that's going to be pushed on us. And then, but other people were very, very excited about it, and were talking about like, well, of course we would want to be net zero. We would do that even if it weren't for the positive press. It's just the right thing to do. So from my perspective, that was really positive thing to hear. Made me excited about the future. And then in general, it was just really neat to see all the companies at PDAC in the mining industry, and see how that whole system works. It's something new for me, so it was great.
So where are you? What's the road trip look like now? Where are you headed to in the near future?
Well, we're headed back to Castlegar today, which is exciting to go home, and then we're looking at opening a new office in Calgary, Alberta, which will be very exciting. And then Chad's headed off to Europe at the end of the month to
Zurich?
have some discussions about moving the company forward, and how we could potentially be launching the app in Europe. So we got a lot of stuff on the table, and then also we'll be building out our projects more. So getting some project managers online, and then going and discovering new exciting projects that are going to save the world.
So we're signing off now. Have a safe flight.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch up with you in a few months, or we might be going to Zurich, so who knows? Maybe we'll have a little chat there at the end of it, but we'll catch up with you, and nothing but the best of luck.
Yes,
Thank you very much. Have a good day.